Your enemy wants you confused. Your enemy wants you to constantly be off balance and to have doubts so that you cannot formulate a plan, step out into action. You get paralyzed by fear and therefore do not accomplish what's been placed on your heart to accomplish. This is the Warrior Podcast, episode 180. And let's talk about how confusion is a weapon of the enemy. If you go all the way back to the very beginning, Garden of Eden, right? You have Adam and Eve doing their jobs in the garden. They have God's presence, they have a duties and responsibilities, they have a rule to follow, very simple rule. They pretty much know their place. And then enter the serpent. And the first thing out of his mouth, he speaks to Eve and he said, "Did God really say?" He starts the whole thing off with, "Are you sure of what you think you're sure about?" He sowed seeds of confusion. And there was a little bit of a misunderstanding there. Go back and check the text. I don't know if we talked about it before, we probably have. But if you look, Adam was given a very specific command from God that they were allowed to eat from every tree except for one. Here's the thing, God did not say anything about not touching that tree. Of course, when Eve is presented with this question from the serpent about, did God really say that you couldn't eat from any tree? See how he did there? You sure you can't eat from any tree? No, it was only one tree. And Eve said to him, "No, we can eat from all the trees except for this one here. We can't eat from this one or we'll die. Matter of fact, if we touch it, we'll die." So here's the thing. In order for her to eat it, for her to doubt God, to be really truly confused and to fall, if you think about it, the serpent didn't have to get her to eat it. He just had to get her to touch it. Because in her mind, due to the confusion, if she touched it, she was disobeying. So how easy is it for her, once she touched it, to go ahead and eat it? Right? She understood, hey, I didn't die by touching it, so therefore I must not die if I eat it either. And it looks good. And, based on the words of this entity here, this serpent, it sounds like God's trying to hold things back from me. So there's confusion on who God is, what he wants us to do, and his intent behind it. And this is how the enemy continues to do things. Sows seeds of doubt. Because why? The enemy is a deceiver. He is the boss of the world that wants to deceive. He's the boss of the flesh of men that wants to deceive themselves and others. Deception is the opposite of truth. And God is truth. His word is truth. Jesus said he is the truth. So we can see that doubt and confusion is a major weapon of the enemy. Well, I would argue that we should not be confused. The only reason we're confused is because we've put our faith, our trust, our reliance in something that cannot be relied upon, cannot be an object of faith. It's unreliable. And the enemy uses that against us. Now, here's the thing. We're not talking about blind faith, but blind faith doesn't even really make sense if you think about it. But I digress. I got one more example for you, major example. So Jesus, when he went into the desert to be tempted of the devil, it was on the heels of him being baptized and being told by the voice from heaven that you are my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. So on the heels of hearing the Father's voice speak to him and tell him he is his son, he goes to the desert to be tempted, and the first words out of the devil's mouth is, "If you are the Son of God." If, meaning there's some doubt there. We don't know if you're the Son of God or not. Even though Jesus just heard from the Father the voice after his baptism telling him he is the Son of God and he's well pleased in him. So when we hear those doubts, when the world tries to send those doubts our way, or the flesh of men, or whatever entities try to sow seeds of doubt and confusion, that's how they get their entry point into creating chaos into our lives. God is a God of order. He's a God of truth, stability, foundation, a rock, Jesus would say. And we're to build our lives on the rock of him and his word. And let all the confusion be used by the enemy against the enemy, because then that enemy divides itself. And that's the nature of the enemy. They're going to continue to just pull apart until they even pull apart their own argument, and it becomes obvious what the truth is and what the lies are. All right, as always, you are a warrior designed for God's glory, so make sure you walk in it. All right, guys, that's all I got today. See you till next time. Stay in the fight.